Hello and welcome to this tutorial series. In this tutorial series we take a look on the simple inventory system, which includes also the character stats and the character preview here. So when we pick up these items here, we can see them in the inventory like that. We can use the items, for example this apple or this bread here, to restore some health or some food. And we can of course wear the clothing on the character. So let's go. In this part we will create the use item function as well as the player stats. So for that let's open again our instance here and create the classic player stats like health as in float. Then we have food, for example, and water, weight. And then of course we have the max health, the max food, max water, and max weight. Then I prepared a new HUD called player stats, where we have again a size box of 400 and 200, a vertical box. Then we have the text with health and the health bar. This is a progress bar, nothing special. And I filled the color for the health in red, for food in slightly brown, and the water is blue. Let's go to the event graph and we create a custom event called update player stats. We start up with the get game instance, cast to the instance. Then we get every new variable here and divide it by his max, so the health divided by the max health, and go on. And then be sure that you set the progress bar as a variable. So we have the water, health, and food bar, and get them out here. And then we want to set the percent like that. So we are done here and we can close the player stats, and then we open up our HUD widget, and then we just place the player stats onto the canvas panel, set the size to 400 and 200, set the anchor in the right corner here, reset everything like that. So now we have the player stats in our view. So when we hit play and open up our inventory, we have already the player stats right here. Let's go back to our instance and we create a new function called add stats. This gets a few inputs. First is health as a float. And then we have food and water. Then we take out all the new variables here, except for the weight. Also the max values. Then we add the input health to the health as a variable of the game instance. Then we check if it's greater or equal than the max health and go on with the food and the water. And then we just ask with a branch on true. We want to set the health to the max health. On false, we want to set the health to the new value. Then we have another branch for food. Same thing, the max food. Set the food on true. And on false, we set it to the new value. Like that. And then we get the player pawn. And we cast to our third person character. Get the inventory widget. Get the player stats. And update our player stats with the function that we created. Next, we need another function which called reduce item. This gets one input, the index as an integer. We take out the inventory, get a copy, connect the index here, right click, split structure pin. Then we check if the amount is bigger than 1. We ask with a branch. Then we take out the inventory again. We want to set the array element up here on true. Right click, split structure pin. The index is of course the index. Then we have the name, the image, the weight. The amount is -1. The category, the mesh, and the actor. On false, we want to remove the index. And again, the index is the index. Then again, we get the player pawn. Cast to our third person character. In both situations. Get the inventory widget. Get the inventory. And update the inventory. So this is our reduce item function. Let's open up the details again and set some health, food, water, and the max health, max food, and max water, max weight. These are just examples. Of course, you can set whatever you want. Then we can close this one and create the use item functions. Let's start with the apple. We just go to functions, override use item. We can delete the parent here. Get the game instance, cast to our instance, and then we want to add some stats. Let's say we gain 5 health and 5 food from the apple. We need to reduce the item, of course. Connect the index with the index. And at the end, we just destroy the actor. And that's basically it. We can copy and paste this function here. And do the same thing for the bread, for example. Override the function. Paste the function right here. Connect the index. Let's say we gain 10 health and 10 food from the bread. And then we do the same thing for the potion. Like that. Alright. We can close everything. The last step is we go to the HUD item again. To the graph. We need a new variable called spawn. This will be a transform. Then we want to override the on mouse button down. Uncheck this one here. We start with the mouse event is mouse button down. Let's choose the left mouse button as an interact with the item. Need a branch to ask. Get the game instance again. Cast to our instance. Get the inventory. Take out the index. Get a copy of the inventory. Connect the index. Right click, split structure pin. We want to spawn the actor from class, in this case our item that we use. So we connect the actor and connect the transform. Then we take out the index again and want to call the use item function. Connect with the return node, and the return value will be handled. Let's open up our third person character, where we add the inventory widget to the viewport. We get out the player stats and want to update them at the beginning. Like that. Compile and save this. Let's see if this works. We hit play. We pick up some items here. Press I, where we have our inventory and the player stats. Let's eat and bread. You can see we gain some health and some food. We have the apple and the potion. And we don't have any functions for the book, so we can't use it. But you can see our health goes up and the food as well. Great. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, please let me know. And yeah, goodbye.